Hi there, Eddie Collins here once again, and welcome to the year 2022. Being that this is my first video of the year, I wanted to take a look back at the year 2021 and pay tribute to some of the giants in bluegrass banjo that we lost this past year. Whether you're someone who aspires to play the banjo or someone who just appreciates those who do, it's always important to look back at those who have contributed so much to the music that we love. In my early years of playing the banjo, I used to carry this banjo head around. It was on my banjo at one time. And every time I'd see one of my heroes, I would get them to sign it. And we lost several of these greats this year: Sonny Osborne, John Hickman, J.D. Crowe. And these are the people I'd like to share a little bit with you about today. I've been lucky enough to have personal interactions with these great players throughout the years through my role as a writer for banjo publications, and oftentimes they would be involved with workshops that I also was involved in. In this video, I'll share my deep admiration I have for these players, as well as provide you with some resources so that you can dig deeper into their importance in the banjo world. All of the players mentioned in this video have been featured in Pete Wernick's and Tony Trishka's seminal work, Masters of the Five-String Banjo, all except Dennis Caplinger, who was just beginning to make a name for himself when this book was first published in 1980. We begin our tribute featuring John Hickman, who passed away on May 7th. I first learned of John's playing through this book, Hot Licks and Fiddle Tunes by Bill Knopf, as he featured the work of John Hickman many times throughout his book. Here's one of the licks that he showed. In 1978, John released his only solo banjo album. It was on Rounder Records, called Don't Mean Maybe. It was very well received by the banjo world as an example of how you could integrate Bill Keith's style along with Don Reno and Earl Scruggs. The first time I saw John perform live was in Southern California at a bluegrass festival. He was playing with Byron Berline and Sundance. Throughout his career, he played in bands with Byron, including Berline, Crowe, and Hickman, and also in the band called California, which was featured at a bluegrass festival here in my hometown of Austin, Texas. And my band Wildwood was also on the bill, so it was nice to meet him again. Sadly, Byron Berline passed away just a couple short months after John did. In the background, you're hearing me playing a transcription of John Hickman's version of Forked Deer, playing with Berline, Crowe, and Hickman. You can find that version on YouTube. John Hickman's legacy has been passed on through those he taught, which include Ron Block and Allison Brown. Dennis Caplinger, who passed away on August 18th, called San Diego his home. You've probably heard his playing way more than you realize, as he played on many TV commercials, TV shows, movies. You might have heard him on a Home Depot commercial, a Subway commercial, and also maybe on a Broadway musical. Dennis was a multi-instrumentalist and also a Grammy winner. He produced many albums, specifically this famous CMH Records Pickin' On series, where they would take rock bands and make an entire bluegrass album of it. When you look at the credits on Pickin' On ZZ Top, you have players such as Brian Sutton on guitar, Rob Ickes on dobro, and then you see Dennis Caplinger, and he has credit for acoustic and electric guitar, five-string banjo, mandolin, fiddle, dobro, and bass, as well as being the producer of the album. So quite a talented guy. Although Dennis toured with several bands, he's most closely associated with this band, Bluegrass, etc., which featured his lifelong friend John Moore on mandolin and guitar. One of the best ways to ensure your musical legacy lives on is to teach others. Dennis did that by mentoring all of the members of the band Nickel Creek and specifically showing Sarah Watkins a lot on the fiddle. Dennis and I also were on the staff at one of Steve Kaufman's acoustic music camps. Here we are in the back row. There's yours truly and a good friend, Dennis Caplinger. We lost Bill Emerson on August 21st. He was a founding member of the band The Country Gentlemen in 1957. He went with Jimmy Martin during the early 1960s and returned to The Country Gentlemen in the early 1970s. Although I didn't realize it at the time because I wasn't playing banjo, I first saw The Country Gentlemen in the early 1970s, and it would have been Bill Emerson that was in the band, along with the great mandolin player Doyle Lawson. The Country Gentlemen were known for bringing in influences outside of pure bluegrass to their music, and it was Bill who suggested that they do the pop song Box on the Run, which their version became an instant bluegrass classic. In 1995, I founded a banjo magazine called Five String Quarterly. One of our early featured artists was none other than Bill Emerson. John Lawless, who now writes for the online magazine Bluegrass Today, did a great job on the featured article. I did get to talk with Bill, and one of the things he told me was that he felt like he was one of the only, if not the only, banjo player to ever retire with a pension. His pension came about as a result of performing for 20 years with the U.S. Navy country band called Country Current. Turns out this was another time during my life when I heard Bill Emerson, not realizing it, as I heard Country Current during the 1970s when they played a free concert backing up Tom T. Hall at the Capitol steps. Upon his retirement from the Navy, he got even more active in music and put out a lot of CDs, many of which would have his original tunes on them. Emerson wrote many instrumental tunes, many of which have become bluegrass standards. Perhaps the most famous is his tune that he wrote while with Jimmy Martin called Sweet Dixie. In his later years, he named his band Sweet Dixie. Bill would infuse jazz and even south of the border sounds into his instrumentals while still keeping a straight bluegrass backing band. These are a couple of my favorite Bill Emerson songs. For anyone wanting to explore more of Bill's music, AccuTab has this fine volume of transcriptions from two of Bill's well-known albums. Sonny Osborne passed away on October 24th, just 5 days before his 84th birthday. His legacy began early as he performed as a bluegrass boy for a couple of months when he was only 14 years old with Bill Monroe. Sonny performed for over 50 years with his older brother Bobby in the Osborne Brothers. They became members of the Grand Ole Opry in the year 1964. They were controversial as a bluegrass band at that time because they would include electric instruments and drums in their recordings. Thus the title, Modern Sounds in Bluegrass Music. 1967 was the year that they released Rocky Top, which at the time only was a number 33 hit on the country charts, but has become immortal as a bluegrass classic. When Sonny passed away, I went back and revisited Rocky Top and retranscribed what I feel is what he actually played on the recording. And you can see the result of that work in this video that I put out. Sonny stressed listening to other styles of music. He personally liked jazz, and he would listen to other instruments as well, getting ideas from steel guitar players and saxophone players. You can hear that in his slow playing on songs like Danny Boy. Sonny would always enthusiastically share his knowledge of the banjo with anyone who was interested. He first came out with a publication about how to play the banjo in 1964, well before Earl Scruggs' famous book. And later he did a video with homespun videos to where he details how he played many of his famous solos. J.D. Crowe passed away on Christmas Eve this past year. He is the biggest reason why I got interested in pursuing the banjo. This album right here is one of the most influential bluegrass albums of all time. Put out on Rounder Records, it's affectionately known as Rounder 44, and is a must-have for anybody wanting to learn bluegrass and or specifically bluegrass banjo. He was also a part of a series of highly influential recordings with a group that became affectionately known as the Bluegrass Album Band, a group of super pickers playing bluegrass, traditional bluegrass at a very high level. J.D. first toured as a member of Jimmy Martin's Sunny Mountain Boys when he was only 13 years old. It's J.D.'s banjo picking that you hear on many of Jimmy's famous recordings. Like Sonny, J.D. suggested listening to other styles of music to broaden your horizons. They both would say start with Scruggs, but then find a way to create your own unique sound. J.D. had so many unique sounding licks that I put together a video of 15 of my all-time favorites. In talking to him at banjo workshops, he always stressed the importance of backup as making your playing part of the full band sound. And indeed, many of his famous licks come from his backup playing. I remember at one workshop when he probably was in his 70s, when he was asked, "Hey, J.D., can you still play those songs as fast as you once did?" And he thought about it and goes, "Well, I probably could, but why?" And to me, that was a saying that he had moved on to where he found a lot of other great things in banjo playing other than just playing fast. While J.D. never did put out an instruction course, there is this AccuTab book of transcriptions which includes all of the solos off of the Rounder 44 album.